Due to Tetria's attack table, getting quick wins off of the opener is not unusual, even if you're not an opener main. People who use these game mechanics such as back-to-back chaining and multiplier everywhere they can with memorized setups are considered to be opener mains, or opener crutches, or opener one-tricks with varying degrees of interchangeability. And with the rising prevalence, which is probably my fault honestly, they get a lot of hate since apparently this isn't the correct way to play the game, and maybe there's a degree of verisimilitude there. I'll be speaking anecdotally about having a wildly opener-heavy playstyle and give some pointers on where to go next. To me, there are three types of opener mains. There's the PC opener mains. Typical traits of these players include people who often go for 8 height PC openers, such as SDPC, Mountainous Stacking 2, etc. These players will insist on following up with stuff like DPC. Often these players will have to majorly outspeed their opponent to avoid receiving garbage lines, and their ability to send opener APM is mostly diffused by getting a couple of lines of garbage onto their board. The next category of opener mains are large setup counter-spike mains. Openers used by these players will often involve some sort of multiple T-spin setup, such as the STSD and reliable TSD, or the C-spin and stick spin, to combo into a quad and instantly send a spike of 20 or more lines. This, combined with pass-through, which inevitably still happens, can often make for a very infuriating match for the opponent. The last category of opener mains are combo opener mains. These are less commonly seen due to combos being quote-unquote nerfed. While it's true that the combo itself won't kill instantly like it often did on Jstress or PBT, this is somewhat negated if you're still able to get yourself into a situation where you can get a multiplier, which is another unique mechanic that Tetrio added, which makes special line clears such as T-spins and quads at the end of combos way more powerful than if they weren't at the end of a combo. Most of the time, misdropping your own opener against any of these playstyles will result in an instant loss. However, it should also be noted that all of these playstyles have their counters. PC opener mains rely on PCs for the majority of their APM, so getting any amount of lines onto their board will negate their ability to continue looping effectively. However, note that sending 4 lines against a skilled PC player may backfire if they're able to save the eyepiece for a Tetris PC. Typically, the strategy against these large opener spike players is to tank or cancel attacks smartly and force the opponent into the mid-game, making your best attempt at sending enough pressure to force them to bail out of their back-to-back. Combo opener mains are often shut down by a quick loop, and it's important to note that you should avoid sending 4 or more lines of clean right off the bat against them, because that could end up in you feeding them more potential to attack. So loops such as SDPC, DPC, or last DPC have the utility here, being TSS start loops. I'll start off with problems with being an opener main because I think there's a couple of them. First thing I notice about opener mains is extremely fast progression through the lower ranks, then finding themselves hard stuck somewhere, usually at the borders of SS and U, or U and X ranks. But remember that these ranks are a completely arbitrary way of sorting players into different skill groups. Suppose that you're in B rank and you just watched a video of someone getting absolutely owned by stickspin, or really any other opener. They will just go on to learn that opener, become really disproportionately good at that aspect, and disregard any non-opener fundamental. One of the most difficult things to watch is someone who's nearly perfected their opener finesse, yet is unable to stack properly anywhere else, and ends up losing to their own inability to stack, not even due to pressure of the opponent. This results in not having ever worked on mid-game, which in turn results in them losing almost any round that isn't an opener kill, which is why you sometimes see players win a lot of rounds under 10 seconds but lose any round that really goes past 20 seconds. Second thing to note is that with opener mains, as a result of this, they tend to get bored of the game pretty quickly, or on other occasions get super frustrated with it. They'll resort to recycling the same old placements over and over again. Perhaps watching the TR number go up after every win is the motivation for using openers to get quick wins, but eventually you need more than just the opener to kill. And this refusal on trying to learn any defensive measures quite often ends in the player just getting bored and quitting, as I've personally seen with a lot of players. Maybe this is also somewhat of a fault of a ranked system, people get more fixated on caring about some number. With any ranked system, it is inevitable that there will be salts on losses, and that feeling that you lost to someone who you thought wasn't better than you, unless you're somehow like a really good sport, and you guys don't actually exist. Another thing to note is the community's general perception of opener mains. Oftentimes it's looked down upon because it's considered a cheap way of getting wins, which it kind of is. Before the advent of Tetrio, 4-wide was seen as a skillless way to win games in Puyo Puyo Tetris, and still kind of is one of the strongest strategies out there. But quick C-spin PC openers have found their use as somewhat of a counter to 4-wide openers, though you should take what I say here with a grain of salt since these are merely my observations. My point is, 4-wide got a lot of hate for being overpowered, and the same can be said about the hate that's directed particularly towards stick spin, so if you're using these openers, prepare to have a lot of people talk smack about your playstyle for being quote-unquote scummy or cheap. Well, having said all of this, I think there are some things that can be learned from using openers a lot. If you're currently an opener main and you're willing to improve on mid-game aspects like I have, what the game comes down to is basically taking the free rounds whenever you can, and just kind of working harder for the rounds that you can't exactly take with just the opener. This may mean that you'll need to work really hard to take any of the rounds off a player, since some players are just kinda impossible to beat consistently with quick opener spikes. That's just the reality of it all. I get a lot of comments telling me that I'm bad at downstacking, yet I've cleared 100 lines of cheese with 255 blocks, which isn't really achievable with poor fundamentals. And I play against turn-based bots to improve my attack efficiency and look back on sets to try understanding my opponent's playstyles a little bit better. I argue that T-spin vision can be sometimes improved with the knowledge of openers. Personally, I picked up knowing how to build more mid-game C-spins by understanding why an opener works. To an extent, mechanical TSD openers can give you an understanding on how to spot free wide gaps for floating T-spins. I may or may not be guilty of this one. Techniques like Cinder 4-wide are not restricted to the opener. Although it's kinda situational, understanding how to build the center well combo setups are the basics of techniques such as power stacking and the fabled Diao stack. After all, Tetra League is a ranked game mode that sometimes but not often fails to completely accurately rank people based solely off skill. It's also play to win, assuming you take it somewhat seriously. If you happen to queue an opponent who has a weakness to quick opener spikes, why wouldn't you exploit that for a couple quick points? This becomes more of a matter about winning with honor or winning with the intention of, well, gaining TR. This is the reason why I, usually ranked around like top 80 maybe, can still take sets off players ranked in the top 30 by exploiting these weaknesses. I'm probably not a better player than them overall, it's just somewhat of a matter of playstyle rock paper scissors. If openers are genuinely how you enjoy playing the game and you're not too fussed about improvement, then I believe nobody should make fun of you for that. Labbing crazy PC openers and making cool T-spin techniques are definitely areas of interest. However, if you are unhappy with being hard stuck at a certain rank, yet you want to keep resisting playing mid-game, you should take a good look at yourself and decide, is opener maining holding me back from my fullest potential? I leave this video with something that I personally stand by, and I think it's true, and perhaps you will disagree with this. Opener maining may show a refusal to learn how to play the game properly. However, losing to openers likewise shows a refusal to learn how to counter these openers, and therefore also is a failure to learn how to play the game properly. Opener maining is not a fault of the players, it's a fault of the game. Thanks for watching everyone.